Hey, happy spring if you're watching this as it airs. I'm so excited for a new season and to wish this podcast, which is now also a vlog, a happy 2-year anniversary. Wild, and it's really thanks to you that it's been around, so thank you. Before we dive into our topic today, I have multiple places you can hang out with me, and I'm most active on Instagram at Julie Bethany, and that's where I take polls for what topics you're most interested in hearing about next too, so you really do get to shape what you want to see and hear on here. And thanks to your vote, today's episode topic is setting good boundaries. It's so interesting because I used to have terrible boundaries and we're always growing, but I'm grateful to have some new tried and true suggestions for you that have come out of my own experience with learning how to set good boundaries. All right, so without further ado, today we'll talk about 1, why it's important to have boundaries, then 2, how to figure out where you need to set boundaries in your life, and 3, some ways you can realistically set those boundaries with examples. So let's start with why having boundaries is so important to not only survive, but to truly thrive and to enjoy your life as much as possible and have the best relationships you can have, and that includes with yourself. You'll see why in a moment, but I truly believe that having boundaries is a matter of respecting yourself. And without them, we also cause issues in our relationships with others and our ability to pursue our dreams and live the life we want to live and be the people we want to be. Now, when you set a boundary, it's not always just because someone wants to push your boundaries or test you or walk all over you. Not everyone has malicious intent, but what they don't always realize is that when they ask us a request or continue a behavior that impedes on our space or goals or really our capacity to deal in any given moment due to our current emotional load, they may be burdening us without knowing it with something heavy on top of heavy things we're already going through and carrying. And it may be small requests and seemingly okay things to ask in a normal situation, but taking on that request might be the straw that breaks the camel's back with lack of a better phrase to use, if we're already carrying so much. So we don't want to assume malicious intent when someone asks us something or does something we need to set a boundary around, but we can view it as not just being kind to ourselves by not burdening ourselves with something we can't take on well at the moment, but also being kind to those we're in relationships with, assuming they don't want to burden us further and would want to know if a request they make would cause us that kind of negative stress. And there are people who will have malicious intent, unfortunately, who we also do need to set boundaries around for sure also. But for those who actually do have our best interests at heart, it's kind to set a boundary with them or tell them no, kindly, of course, over having resentment toward them over something they didn't know was causing you more stress because you didn't share that with them. Unfortunately and fortunately, we are not mind readers, and setting boundaries with our loved ones is a very kind way to keep resentment from infiltrating our relationships. And boundaries are healthy for and kind to us and for those we love. And when we set good boundaries, we protect ourselves not only from resenting others and not only from stressing ourselves totally out, but we also make room for the things in our lives we want to fill our lives with. And if you are chasing a dream full force, you must make room to pursue it in your life. And setting boundaries is a good way to protect the time and energy and space you need to make those dreams happen for you. Okay, so that's why setting boundaries is important. Now we're going to look at how you know you need to set a boundary and how to find out where there might be some places in your life that you could set a boundary to make your life easier and way more fulfilling. So way number 1 that you know you need to set a boundary is when you can feel someone coming at you with malicious intent or that they're trying to walk all over you. So that is where we do bring this up. It is important to note. While we don't want to assume malicious intent in our relationships or from people in general, There is the exception where you know someone is trying to do you dirty. And in those cases, we want to prevent being walked all over as soon as possible or acknowledge that we've enabled someone to do that without realizing it to us and make it better. Just because you've agreed to something in the past does not mean that if the arrangement with someone isn't working out for you anymore, you can't change it. You totally can. You are the CEO of your own life. Hire, fire, and promote accordingly. I love that quote, but I don't know who said it. Anon. Way number 2, you know you need to set a boundary is when you start feeling resentful towards someone for taking something on or something simply not working out for you anymore. You could have been doing it for 5 years, but if that thing is no longer feeling fair or balanced to you, then you can rearrange. The person you made that deal with might have not had bad intent at all, but the impact over intent is important and a valid reason to change the agreement. For example, if you and your partner made a deal originally where you do all the cooking and they clean up afterward, and you start feeling like it's taking you a lot more time to do that you could be allotting to other endeavors that push your goals and dreams forward, maybe it's time to split the cooking and cleaning responsibilities evenly. Or with our pal Postmates. Just kidding. But also not. Like, I hath never seen or personally ordered takeout as much as when I moved to New York City. People are just so busy here, myself included, and everything is convenient. And at every hour of the day that people here order takeout all the time. That tangent is important though, because the answer might not be, I did the cooking for 5 years while you did the cleanup, so let's swap for the next 5 years. Or now let's split it evenly, though neither of us might have that time to cook as often. The answer actually might be more creative, like, I know I can't keep doing this, but we can agree to order takeout X amount of times a week, or maybe we can both devote time to batch cooking and meal prepping on weekends and making it a fun, like date-like activity. Get some HelloFresh all up in here. I totally sound like an ad right now, but I promise this is not sponsored, but hopefully someday. HelloFresh, Postmates, if you would like to sponsor. Just kidding. All right, so we'll talk about good ways to set boundaries next, but it's important to note that not everything is black and white when it comes to boundaries. And you might need to get a little creative to reach a good compromise, because we also want to respect the boundaries of others in the process of setting our own. Okay, so we know so far we need to set boundaries when 1, someone's walking all over us intentionally with malicious intent, and 2, when we're growing resentful towards someone due to something we've been doing for them, or, splitting things in a way that you can't handle anymore correctly, or the next 2 ways you need to set a boundary don't have to do with another person at all. So way number 3, it's time to set a boundary is when you personally can't take on another thing emotionally, like you're going through a lot physically, like there's just not enough time in the day, or practically, like you already have a lot of projects you're working on at work and it's nearly impossible to add or focus on an additional one, or, emotionally burdensome. So way number 4, you need to set a boundary is when you're pursuing a big dream or goal and you need to protect the future version of your life and yourself at all costs. So this is like if you're working hard toward a goal and something would impede your progress to making it happen and stall your dreams from coming true for longer because you would be focusing on making someone else's dream a reality instead. Whoa, let that soak in. And finally, way number 5, you need to set a boundary, or you need to set a boundary rather, is simply if something feels off and you don't want to do that thing. Our human spirit, which I believe is God-given and assisted by His Spirit, but regardless of what you believe, our human spirit, our intuition, is more intelligent than we may entirely understand. And our intuition will tell us when something's off, and it's wise to listen to that. If we don't think a path is for us and we feel weird about taking that path or doing something, I would highly, strongly advise not doing it. And we'll get into next how to say that you just don't want to do something and how it's okay to set a boundary for someone to not press further. Okay, to recap the ways you know you need to set a boundary somewhere, whether with someone or something existing in your life currently that needs to change, or when a new request is asked of you, we have number one, when you can feel someone coming at you with malicious intent or someone's trying to walk all over you. Number two, when you start feeling resentful towards someone for taking something on or something simply not working for you anymore, you need to set a boundary. Number three, when you personally cannot take on another thing emotionally, physically, or practically. Number four, when you are pursuing a big dream or goal and you need to protect the future version of your life and yourself at all costs. And number five, when something just feels off and you don't know, or you do know that you don't want to do that thing. Now, how do we set good boundaries in all those circumstances? Everyone has different personalities and comfort levels surrounding boundaries, but there are tried and true ways to deliver your boundaries that will build both your respect for yourself and others' respect toward you. Boundary delivery really needs to be a few things very simply. It needs to be clear, firm, and kind. Notice I didn't say and with a reason. You actually don't have to give one. I would normally say boundaries as a joke here, but we're literally talking about what that means right now. Okay, so when I say boundaries should be clear, I mean you should tell the whole of what you need, not a half truth. Like if we're running with the making dinner example from earlier, it's saying something like, hey, I can't make dinner 7 days a week, or saying, I can probably only make dinner half of the week. Instead, it's being clear and saying something like, I know I can only handle making dinner thrice a week now on. It's clear. You can only do it 3 times, and you're saying that clearly. It's saying what you mean and meaning what you say. It's also through allowing room for discussion, because a partnership in this case takes compromise and working together and sometimes sacrifice, but that's where creativity can really come in. But we don't want to leave room for someone to misinterpret. That's why sharing the maximum amount of days you can cook, for example, in this example, is important so you can find a solution much faster because your ask is much clearer, right? It needs to be clear. The delivery of your boundary also needs to be firm. When you are clear on your ask, on what you need, on what you can and can't commit to, state it firmly. Notice firm does not mean mean. You can say something kindly and firmly at the same time. For example, I can't clean up your mess every day anymore could be interpreted as mean, but saying something instead like, hey, I know our arrangement has been for me to do all our laundry once a week. I've been really busy, so I don't have time to do that every week now, but I can do it every other week, but unfortunately not more than that. Can we work on a solution where you and I alternate, or we spend a little more to send our laundry out every other week? Firm. I can't do this thing more than X times a week, and I'm firm in that, but I'm still open to creative solutions. And creative solutions are going to be a pattern here. It's going to be a pattern because when we're dealing with important relationships in our lives, our setting of a boundary is asking someone else to adjust to theirs. Really important. And in this example, when we set a boundary around doing laundry less ourselves, it is asking someone else to either do laundry more when they didn't before, or maybe paying more of our money and theirs to find another solution. So what we want is to be firm and say we can no longer do something in the same way, but we also do need to be flexible in how we adjust. And if that means putting that on someone else and taking their time and effort, or our finances, we share personally. So we want to be firm but kind. Kind is really important. So firm but kind, clear but considerate. Okay, practically, how does this work? Let's go through the 5 ways we might realize we need to set a boundary and go through examples for how to set one for each of them. I interrupt myself for this very important announcement. You're so welcome. I am beyond excited to share with you that I have a free mini course you can take right now, but also maybe wait until after you finish this episode, but to each their own. I'm not going to stop you from doing you. But the course is about helping you get unstuck and re-inspired if you feel like you're in a place, like a lot of us do often, honestly, where you just don't know what you want next for your life, or if you do, how to get it. The mini course includes 10 quick minutes of me sharing strategies to help you get unstuck and re-inspired, and comes with a complimentary one-page journal entry you can download for you to work through what you want for your life and how to create the momentum to get what you want next for yourself in the easiest and fastest way possible. And you'll take away actionable items you can apply right away. And as a bonus, after the initial course, if you still left wanting more, I'll tell you about my full-length version of that course that will walk you through creating a goal and a plan to achieve it in order to get you closer to the life of your dreams you want to be living, and the exact steps to do that over the next 3 months. I will hold your lovely hands in mine and guide you toward figuring out what you want and then how to get it efficiently if you want to take it a step further. I shall run the marathon with you after the sprint so that in 3 months you will have achieved something you really want in your life. All good things take time, so for the sake of the best version of yourself and the life you could be living 3 months from now, which will fly by, you don't need to put off your dreams any longer. You deserve to live the life of your dreams as soon as possible, because why not? So let's start today. I'm ready. Are you? To check it out and get the free mini course so you can apply the tools to improve your life right away, and or to learn more about the full-length course about going from stuck to re-inspired and really crushing a massive goal in only 3 months' time with me, the links are included with this episode. I can't wait to see what you create for your life with it. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. For number 1, when you can feel someone coming at you with malicious intent or who's trying to walk all over you and it's very obvious, this is where we lean heavily into clear and firm. We can still be kind, but this is a firm boundary we're setting that does not enable someone to walk all over us. We are drawing a line in the sand that cannot be crossed for our own protection. If someone asks you to take on all their work at work because they quote unquote don't feel like it, and I don't know, threatens you with telling your boss you're lazy, aka lying about your character as a threat to do their will and work for them, this is where you might tell them directly, hey, I don't appreciate you threatening me, name it. Then I am already doing my own work and cannot take on yours, and your work is your responsibility. Then I'd personally report that threat, but I've had someone in a relationship once tell me not to text them that day or they'd break up with me. This is also where you draw a boundary, saying something like, hey, it's important to communicate in a relationship, and if you want to take some time to cool off before we talk about this situation, that's okay. But I don't do ultimatums in a relationship. I will respect your personal space, of course, but I'm also not going to accept that treatment going forward. That was one of those things, by the way, where I truly believe you can hide who you are for 3 months in a relationship. And in that particular instance, on literal day 90, this person cracked and went berserk on me. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but when you see that type of behavior in someone, it's boundary time. It's time to stick up for yourself. And, we teach people how to treat us, from Dr. Phil. I haven't seen him forever, by the way. Is he still doing his thing on TV? Unclear. But great advice. Teach someone what is and is not okay in terms of how they treat you, and use their behavior as the example of what works and what doesn't for you. Okay, for number 2, when you start feeling resentful towards someone for taking something on, or something's simply not working out for you anymore in an arrangement, this is the time to lean into all 3. So we want to be clear, firm, and kind. Saying something like, hey, I know we had an arrangement where I drove your kiddos to school with mine every Monday, but I just changed shifts at work, and my kids are old enough to take the bus home. So starting in a month, I won't be able to continue taking both our kids to school on Mondays. But if you'd like mine and yours to be bus buddies and show yours the ropes, I'm happy to propose that to my kids. I don't have kids yet, so I'm totally making that scenario up, but the way things have always been done don't have to be the way we do them forever if they're not working for us any longer. And notice I provided a solution there. I like the yes and or no but form of hospitality and customer service that can be applied to our personal lives here too. So saying something like, unfortunately, no, I can't do this any longer, but what I can recommend is fill in the blank with whatever creative option that might work for a solution instead. And hey, you're getting a complimentary hospitality training here. So fun. Okay, so for number 3, when you personally cannot take on another thing emotionally, physically, or practically, and someone asks you to do something that it would be too much of a burden, you get now to decide if you want to fill them in on why you can't take on that thing or not. You get to choose how much you want to add color here and share with them. For example, if someone asks me to cat sit for them and I have a very busy week ahead, I can tell them a multitude of things that are clear and firm and sprinkle kindness in if I feel like it. When it comes to you taking on something for someone else into your personal life and as a burden, you don't owe anyone an explanation for why you choose not to grant that request. You can say something like, hey, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to this week, and leave it there. You could also add to it and say, hey, so sorry, but I have a very busy week and won't be able to then. Or add to it and say something like, hey, I'm sorry, but this week I have a lot of projects to complete that are due by Friday and I won't be able to add extra travel time into this week. And for any of them, potentially recommend another mutual friend who could, or a pet sitting app. But you get to decide how much you choose to disclose. I've had friends apologize for not getting back to me right away when we were making plans because they were feeling depressed. I've also known that's the unspoken reason it took someone a while to get back to me, even when they don't share it at times. And true friends are gonna respect when you need to set a boundary, whether you explicitly state why or not. For number 4, when you're pursuing a big dream or goal and you need to protect the future version of your life and yourself at all costs, it's going to be similar to the last one we just went through. So lean into firm and clear and add an explanation if you want to, or don't. But since this podcast is literally about becoming the best version of yourself you can be in order to live the life you dream of, I'm going to recommend a practice for any boundary setting of any type that involves living vicariously through yourself if you don't feel comfortable setting a boundary or don't know how to do it yet. For a refresher, living vicariously through yourself, the title of this podcast, is the act and art of living as the best version of yourself today so you can actively become them. When you act like the best version of yourself, you are being your best self. And those actions you take get you closer so much faster to the life you dream of living. Now, to apply this to setting boundaries, I might think of a boundary I need to set. And if I've struggled in the past to set good boundaries, and hey, that's me, the Julie of the past too, I can envision how I'd want to set a boundary if I were my best self and act as them when I go to set that boundary. For example, if I need to let someone know I can't take on an extra project at work because it would require time outside of work for me to finish it, but also red flag anyway, am I right? But anyway, if I'm needing to set a boundary there because I want to spend my free time outside of work working toward my dreams and don't believe in my ability to set a good boundary because I've been maybe not clear or firm in the past, I can imagine how my best self would set that boundary and the things she'd say and act as her and channel her and be her, aka my best and most authentic self, as I go to set that boundary. If I know I'd want to say, I'm sorry, but I don't have time outside of work right now to take that on, but think Patricia would be a great substitute to take that on, but I'm scared to say that, I could practice it as the best version of myself, like literally acting it out as if you are an actor or actress and rehearsing it if you need to. And tell yourself in the mirror if you want to, write it down if you have to, or meet up or call a friend and recite it to them so that your bestie can refine it or pretend they're the person you need to set a boundary with and Do those things until you feel comfortable with the delivery. So when your moment comes, you're setting that boundary exactly the way you wanted to. And it takes practice setting good boundaries. Practice makes perfect, right? And as we learned from scenario number 2, you can always go back and refine your boundaries if you feel you didn't set them firm or clear enough the first time. All right, finally, number 5, when something just feels off and you don't want to do that thing, you can tell someone no clearly and firmly. You don't have to give a reason. If someone is being pushy, my favorite thing I've seen people recommend in terms of boundaries is asking someone back, "Why would you ask me that?" Boundaries aren't only for when someone's asking you to do something for them. They can also be when someone's asking you to tell them something or reveal something about your personal life or explaining something you don't feel comfortable telling them about yourself or someone else. No means no, and you can say no to sharing information or gossiping or explaining yourself. You don't have to explain yourself or your reasoning to anyone. You can say no without saying no, but. You can say no ifs, ands, or buts about it instead when you need to. This is being firm and clear, but also being kind because it's being kind to yourself. So your intuition is smart. You are smart. Listen to and protect yourself. If your great aunt is asking you about the person you just broke up with at a holiday dinner, you can say, "Hey, thanks for your concern, but I don't want to talk about that right now, so I can enjoy this dinner." If someone asks you why you're still single at said family dinner, you can say, "Why would you ask that?" to them if they know it's coming from a malicious place. You can also say, "Maybe we can talk about it at a later time." And that's it. Boundaries teach other people how to treat us, and it's respectful to ourselves to have and keep boundaries. And when we set boundaries, we also need to keep them or even adjust them if they're no longer working for us. And the magic in all this is that once you set more boundaries, you'll set yourself up for more success and happiness and relief of pressure than you ever knew was possible. I used to think that people pleasing was better than disappointing someone by turning down their request. But what I really learned is that telling them no clearly, firmly, and kindly actually created the opportunity for my happiness and prevented creating resentment toward them and made me feel like I and they respected me more because I taught someone what it looked like to respect me and myself what it looks like to have self-respect in that regard. And you will also understand once you set boundaries for yourself, what it looks like to respect others' boundaries even better too. Because when they tell you no, you won't take it so personally, knowing that often it has nothing to do with you and how much they wish they could do something for you or share something with you, but rather their own workload and things going on in their life personally, and the respect they have for themselves is why they might have said no. Practice makes perfect here. Practice setting those boundaries and before you set boundaries if you need to. It took me a really long time, and I'm still always growing in this category. All right, so as we wrap up today, is there a boundary you need to set somewhere? Ask yourself, is there something that came to mind as we were chatting today? Try setting a boundary there and truly watch your life transform. P.S. If someone does not respect your boundary or gets angry at you for setting it, it also means they do not respect you or don't know how to respect their own boundaries or are used to walking all over you and now you've inconvenienced them by not enabling them to. So if someone does not want to respect your boundary, hold firm, put your foot down, draw the line in the sand, but also extend them grace as they learn to respect you and themselves because chances are, if they don't understand how to respect your boundaries right away, it's very likely they don't have many of their own and they're actually showing, and you are actually showing them how to set them for themselves too. Okay, as always, go and make me proud, but most importantly, go and make yourself proud. I'll see you next time and definitely come hang out with me on your favorite platform too. And if you want to engage in picking episode topics like you voted for this one, find me at Julie Bethany on Instagram, where I hang out the most of anywhere. I'll see you soon.